Okay, so today we're going to be using Claude Cowork to do SEO and AEO. Now, this is an absolute hack because you can now, with Claude Cowork, using skills, plugins, different command lines, you can get an insane amount done incredibly accurately, and it really changes the whole way that SEO and AEO work can be done. And just in this short video, I'm going to be going through the entire process of how to get this funnel set up, how the workflows actually work, and we're going to go all the way from actually doing detailed keyword research all the way through to the content being written in the next 20 or so minutes. So that's what we're going to go through now. So first thing to mention is that Cowork is incredible if you're someone that is more on the non-technical side. So you probably have heard of Claude Code. Now, what Claude Cowork is it's really just a simple UI that's been put on top of Claude Code. Now, it's a way for you to directly interact with your computer, so you can select files directly on your computer. But then in addition, what you can do is you actually are using, but the difference is that you are using Claude Code in the back end. Now, this is great because it is so much more powerful than Claude. And this then means that it can go off and do a huge number of things. It can create files, it can search the web, it can complete multi-chain workflows, and we're going to go through some of those now. Okay, now before we get into it, I want to just explain in a little bit more detail exactly what Cowork is so you've got the right framing. So there's really a couple of things to understand at its core in terms of what it actually does. So first thing, like I said, it runs directly on your computer, and that means that it can effectively do almost anything that you can actually do directly on your computer. So it has a huge amount of capability. They've done a lot of safety work on it, so it is broadly secure. I trust it to do most things. Now, it's got 4 core capabilities that are interesting. So the first one is skills. You may have heard of skills already. These are specific capabilities that you give it that will execute a certain task. So you could have a skill for creating, X content or LinkedIn content. You could have a skill for creating blogs, case studies on your website. It could be for creating really good UI design, like literally anything. And what's cool about skills is it's not just a markdown file that explains a particular workflow. What it also can do is it can package in data and other sort of attachments, if you like, that can give it more context. So it can bring around context with it. And it's really, really good for basically creating repeatable workflows for yourself. So we're going to use some of these today because we're going to have skills for doing SEO keyword research and for actually blog creation as well. Now, there's then connectors. Now, these are basically how can you get Cowork to talk to external applications, and these are actually MCP apps. What's cool about MCP apps is that these are also things that are now available not just in Claude, but as a standard MCP app means that if you have an MCP app, you can deploy it in ChatGPT App Store, now in Cursor as of today, that's live, VS Code, Goose, platforms like this. Now, this basically means that via MCP, it can talk to these interfaces. So it could be Supabase, it could be Gmail, it could be Excalidraw, which is what I'm using here, really anything. Another thing that's cool is sub-agents. Now, what that means is that Claude Cowork will decide, okay, I actually want to delegate to a specific sub-agent that can then go and execute those tasks in its own context window. And that's cool because it saves context, but also because it's specialized for that particular task. So maybe you have a sub-agent that it spins up specifically to do coding. Then another one that's cool is commands. So basically, let's say you wanted to do something repeatably. Maybe it's like every day you want to do a daily update to understand what changes there have been to a keyword search that you have. You could create a command for that. So you would just be able to basically trigger, and then it would go and complete an entire workflow. And maybe that workflow has in it using certain skills, connectors, sub-agents. So that's basically how this whole thing gets brought together. Now what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on SEO and AEO. I'm going to go through just some sections that we have here, and then we're going to go through actually just do it live, set it up and go through these workflows. So the first thing you want to do is you want to connect data. So there's two ways you can do this. First of all, you want to try and let's just leverage as many MCP apps as possible because it's all native and integrated. So you have an Ahrefs, you have a SEMrush MCP app as well. And that means that obviously it's just using the native connector that's already in there. For some people, not everyone has Ahrefs or SEMrush, and they're pretty expensive. So if you're not someone that does a lot of SEO, these might not be something that you have. But what's cool is that you can just use CSVs for this. So, in this demo, we're going to use keywords from Ahrefs, and that's actually just a download that I was able to get. And you can do that as well if you don't have like a full subscription plan. This is the same for actually Google Analytics and Google Search Console. So they don't have connectors yet. You can use another Google product. I think it's Big Data to connect everything in there. But again, if you don't have the connector, you don't have the connector's not available in this case, but you can use a CSV upload, and you want to have those configured so it can actually use those connectors there. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to build skills. And skills are, like I said, are specific repeatable workflows with context and learnings to do something really well. So we are going to build skills. I'm going to show you the skills that I've got for keyword research and SEO and AEO content. So that means you can create a workflow where it's going to go through and it's going to do keyword research based on the SEMrush or Ahrefs data and your Google Analytics data. And then what it's going to do is it's going to leverage all of that insight to create a full plan. And then it's going to create SEO and AEO content using both of those skills. So it's a full end-to-end workflow we're going to complete on that piece. So this is basically what, some of the articles that it can create. These are examples, right? So it's suggesting different article types that you could do. But we're going to actually just let the AI decide this, right? What articles it thinks best based on priority, based on keywords. Maybe you want to perform stuff based on certain long tail keywords that it's targeting. It's going to come up with a full strategy to do this. And then in terms of the output, you'll have markdown file, HTML, also the metadata, and just like a brief to kind of go through it. So you can really draft this output in any way you want. But I think the core thing that I want to try and achieve during this demo is just how to create basically a really, really good SEO plan based on the keyword strategy. Then on the back of that plan, go and create the first content that's there. And then what you can also start to do, and we can show this in maybe a future demo, is how you actually then start to integrate this directly into your CMS or website, so that you can then just also automate the flow of this stuff. And I'm also heavily using OpenClaw. I actually have Claude Code CLI directly in my OpenClaw. So basically I'm able to do this as a more automated workflow end to end, but I will do a future session on that. So I think we can just get started. Now, if you go back to your Cowork, if you go to the sidebar and then you go to settings, in connectors, you will basically be able to see all the different connectors that you have. And then if you go to browse, you can actually start to see all of the different connectors that are available. Now, you can see in here, if I go to Ahrefs, you can see the Ahrefs one, you can see the SEMrush one. No, SEMrush actually isn't. SEMrush only has its ChatGPT app. I actually thought it was in Claude as well, but just got Ahrefs for now. And then we don't actually have Google Analytics or Google Search Console, but what you do have is Google Cloud BigQuery. So some people have this connected, and therefore it can access. If you use this platform, you'll have access to all of that through this, so you can connect it. If you don't worry. What you want to try and do now is you want to go and go to Google Analytics Search Console, go to your general just Google Analytics, and then what you want to do is you want to basically get exports of that data. And go and do that now, and then you can like follow along for the rest of the demo. So the workflow that we want to try and do is we want to leverage our understanding of Google Analytics, any context it has on our website, and any context and data that it currently has. And then we want it to actually just recommend keywords that we can go and get from an Ahrefs or a SEMrush or a data for SEO. You could use their MCP, for example, and then it will come up with keywords, and then we want to get exports for those keywords. So let me, first of all, before we get started on that, just show you the skills that I've created, because I can give these as downloads to you so that you can then use them in your workflows. So if I go into settings here, you can see if I go into capabilities, and then if you go down, you can actually go to customize, and you can see all of the skills that you have. Now, I've got a number of different skills that I use a lot, and these are the two that I have for SEO. And so you can see here, they're very detailed in terms of like the phases that they have. I go through and do context gathering, data integration analysis, strategic analysis, outputs to specific deliverables. One is the strategic strategy document, and then another one is a content action roadmap. And the idea there is that it will actually give you an overview once it has all of the keywords and everything around what you should be focusing on, which is perfect. Because then what this does, and you can see it's got a methodology file that I created, it goes to the SEO content one, and then it takes all of that data. So it says like, okay, the first thing that we need to do is we need to create this new article, and then it goes through and it creates the same flow around the article. And this is basically premised on best practice SEO, AEO content, and it understands how to write really, really good SEO articles. And it's got the same, it has a methodology file as well, which I has referenced. So I will give you both of these so that you can use them. So the first thing that we're going to go through and do is creating, based off the Google Analytics and Google Search Console data, what keywords to go after. So I'm going to give you a prompt. I've already done this, so I won't go through and get the output, but I will show you the kind of prompt that you want to do. So I have here my Google Analytics and Google Search Console data, and what I now want you to do is I want you to review all of that data, and then I want you to have a think on the kind of keywords based on also your understanding of the business, what kind of keywords we could be going after. And I'm also going to attach some more context on what we do and the company, like you can use Firecrawl MCP to scrape our website. And here is also some attachments of other documents that are related so you can understand more about the business. And then use that to come up with some keyword suggestions around things that we can focus on for our keyword data that we want to get from Ahrefs. So I would attach this prompt in the guide, but this is the kind of keyword, the kind of prompt that you want to be using. Because what it will do is it's now going to come back and it's going to give you all of this really interesting insight that says around these are the kind of keywords that you can begin to be going after. And what that's going to do is it's then just going to give you loads and loads of different keywords, and you want to then put those into Ahrefs, and you then want to get back all of this different keyword data. And that's really, really useful because it can then begin to give you insights into, okay, I should be going after this kind of keywords. And then what you want to do is you want to bring back that data, and then you want to actually get it to begin to go through and do all of this analysis and content creation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now show you from this next step. So what I would suggest actually when you first start this work is create a folder specifically for this. Now, I've already got one that's created, which is my SEO and AEO folder. I do everything in here. And what I'm then going to do is actually, as part of this, in here, I've got a lot of information on the keyword research. So I have basically in here like the Ahrefs exports that you can get. So you can get things like website overviews, competitor performance, competitor backlinks, our backlinks, keyword data. And let's focus on, or you can focus on Ghost Team for now. And the other thing that I think we'll get is just the keyword data as well. And what you can do is, I'm just going to attach Ghost Team keywords, and the other thing is the Ghost Team data as well. Now, these are basically the main files that you want to be looking at. And once you've already got the skills embedded, so it's going to know how to pick up these skills, and you've got all of this data that's already in here, then what I want to do is the following. So I now want you to leverage this data that we have from Ahrefs and your understanding of what we do at ghostteam.ai. And I want you to use the keyword research skill to, based on this data, do some research to think about the best SEO and AEO strategy for us and come up with an action plan as to what to execute. Then I want you to create the first 5 articles and blogs on the back of the research that you've done using the SEO content creation skill, and then show me those outputs and I will review them. Great. So I'm just going to click go on that, and what is going to happen now really is basically the magic that's behind Cowork. So obviously this is a really big task. Like, what I'm asking it to do is basically review all of this different data, and then I'm asking it to do all of the keyword research, and then on the back of that, once it's got that keyword research, it's then going to actually start to go and write all of those articles, and it's going to use the keyword research skill. So you can see here it's actually found that skill, and then after that it's going to use the SEO content creation skill. So both of the ones that I gave you. As you can see here, that's really cool. It basically, the first thing that it then does is it always creates a task map. So you can see here it goes through and basically is outlined all the different tasks. So it's going to look through all of the different Ahrefs data. It's then going to run a SERP analysis. It's then going to build the keyword strategy and scoring. It's then going to build the content actions and roadmap. It's going to write all of the articles, and then it's going to verify the outputs. So this is basically now just going to get to work, and it is going to go through and do all of these different outputs. You can see here, this is how it works with context and different connectors. In this instance, because we're not connecting directly to the Ahrefs connector, you would typically see that here. But you can see here is actually also using some web search as well. And what it typically does whenever it does this is it follows sort of a Claude MD file. And you can see here the different sort of data pieces that it's followed. So it will now basically go through and do all of this work. So what I will do is I will pause this, and then we can come back and review the outputs once it's worked through it. Okay, and there we go. The whole thing is done. So just to recap progress, you can see here it's gone through and just done all of those actions. And if we just run through them here, you can see basically the output that's been done. So it's got strategy document, so keyword strategy, content roadmap. Then on the back of that content roadmap, it's basically gone and chosen different ones to do. So like you can see here, it's focused on agentic commerce, talking about ACP, UCP versus Amazon, how we've got our Ghost Team 4-pillar framework, which is interesting that it's picked up on that. ChatGPT app development guide, definitely needed. Conversational commerce, which is just talking about basically agentic checkouts. AI enablement framework, which is something that we focus on. We help a number of enterprises with this. An OpenAI SDK tutorial. So it's gone through and basically created all of that based on what it's deemed to be the most interesting in the content roadmap. You can open up all of these. So like this is, then maybe we start with the strategy. It's gone back and then basically looked at, okay, these are the most interesting ones and why. So it can see that agentic commerce has got massive growth. So it wanted to pick up on that. You can see here the ChatGPT app development is low keyword difficulty and actually low volume, but there's a lot of potential there and no really credible competition. So a lot of opportunity to go after it. So you can see here, it really understands how to do SEO, and then it will basically know how to create content around it. So it's done it basically a blend of these different verticals to go after. And it then will give you basically a load of different data overview. So it's looked at like volume distribution, difficulty distribution, CPC highlights, key growth trends, clusters, right? So it's looking at all these different cluster keywords. This kind of stuff would take you hours and hours and hours if you were going to be doing this manually. Then it did the content action roadmap. So on the back of that, it's then suggested, okay, let's have a look. Top 20 pieces to go through. So I could even then say, why don't we do this? Now create the rest of the top 20 pieces that you said we should create. So we can just have that running in the background. Shopify ChatGPT App Store submission is interesting. So you can see it's really understood what we do, and it's picked up how to what content to create. And then it's basically created like a bit of a content map plan, but obviously you can move quicker than that if you want to. It does have this internal link blueprint, which I think is interesting as well. And then stuff in the AEO checklist, which is great. So you can see that full strategy. And then if you go back up here, you then have each of the articles. So all of that has been done. It even gives you the SEO metadata tags. And as you can see here, it's got lots of like the FAQs and things like this running as well. So full piece, very detailed. And this is because it's chosen, I think, to do a more detailed one. It can be slower or shorter, sorry. But very interesting. And you could obviously then do stuff to say, okay, like I want this to be shorter, I want it to be longer. You can just adjust that. It's gone for a longer one in this instance. But yeah, that just gives you an overview. And again, like you can see here, it's now just going to write the rest of these articles. So it's very little work once you have really good skills, really good data, and all of this set up directly in Cowork. As you can see here, it is just able to do a huge amount really quickly. And it's not even possible to do this in Claude because it just does not have the capabilities. You basically just hit context window limitations and all these kind of things. So yeah, that is a quick demo. Wanted to show everyone a little bit around how I'm using Cowork to do a load of the SEO and AEO work that we do here at Ghost Team. And I will create a full guide on this. So I will share that link in the comments below. And yeah, if you have any questions, just reach out and let me know.